Keith Fraser for Seconds Out. I'm here with legendary boxing promoter Frank Warren ahead of the big night on Saturday night with Martin Murray facing Roberto Garcia, as well as a huge undercard with Daniel Dubois, Anthony Yarde, etc., etc. Frank, you know what? I know obviously a lot of fans were disappointed that Billy Joe Saunders pulled out. I'm actually, as a fan, very excited about this night. You've got a lot of good bouts, and you always, not that I'm buttering you up in any particular way, you always put on good cards.
Well, we do our best, Keith, but the fact of the matter is obviously we're very disappointed for the fans, for the people who made travel arrangements, booked hotels and bought tickets for Bill, but Bill to be fighting Martin. But unfortunately, he's injured. He's not going to be fighting until September. Please God that he gets over his injury. But in the meantime, we put together, I think, a real competitive show, and certainly the main event is a good fight. Two really good quality operators who've been sort of avoided by a lot of fighters. It's a crossroad for both of them. The winner of this, I think, will go on and fight for a world title. Roberto Garcia has been, I think he's undefeated in 8 years. Martin Murray's a tough guy. He's been, he's had two disappointments with the pullouts from Bill. But, the fans will benefit from this. I think this is going to be, this is a fight where when that bell goes, they're not really looking for each other. They're going to be in the centre of the ring. You could have put this one on in a phone box.
Well, here's the thing. You said the winner of this fight will fight for one of the world titles. There's really only two men in that division now, Treble G and, of course, your man, Billy Joe Saunders. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I actually do believe that Billy Joe Saunders can beat Treble G. And I know you're going to love me for saying that, but I honestly do think so. Now, assuming whoever wins this fight, as you said, that will get a shot, who would you like to see them in the ring with, Billy Joe or Treble G?
What, the winner of this one? Yeah. Well, we've got to see how it turns out, how it pans out, and who actually wins it. I mean, obviously Martin still wants to fight with Bill, and Bill was hoping to fault Martin and then moved on for another fight. That's what he had in his mind, and obviously Martin had other opinions of that. Any of those fights, every one of those fights is a good fight. And what we got to deliver for the fans is a competitive fight for Bill, and a fight where he can get up for it. So it's a big fight that he can get up for it. The funny thing is, they were very respectful, him and Martin Murray, before the two press conferences. Now, the gloves are off, aren't they? So I think there's more about the fight with Martin and Bill than there was before. Before the postponements. But to be honest, Bill's in a position where he's got to make his mind up, and he will do. We're meeting over the weekend, and then we'll make our decision.
Well, I want to come on to the other two fights that spring to mind immediately, the ones that I'm really interested in. Anthony Yarde, of course, because the other night I was at York Hall, I saw Joshua BUATSI. Now, of course, Anthony Yarde's a bit further ahead in his career, but British fight fans are already talking about that fight. Can you enlighten us? Do you think there is perhaps a time within the next year we could see those two in the ring together, or is Anthony Yarde purely looking at world title ambitions?
Well, where he is at the moment, he's getting a bit more experience and fighting for a world title. He's now ranked number 2 now in the world. So BUATSI's, what's he had, about 4 fights now, 3 or 4 fights?
I think 6.
Oh, 6, sorry, apologies. He's had 6 fights. Look, they've got, over at Matchroom, they've got BUATSI, they've got Callum Johnson, they've got Jose Burton. Why are they having a problem not matching them all up? Because if they was with me, they'd all be fighting each other. Like, we're making fights against our fighters. So why don't they make those fights between those 3, the winner of that, by February, they can make those fights, and by February, we can put the winner in with Anthony.
Okay, are you watching Eddie Hearn? But anyway. Yeah. Well, the other thing I want to ask you is about Daniel Dubois. I said it the other day, I think, 20, 30 years ago, the world was mocking British heavyweights. All the best heavyweights in the world now, and we've got a load of them, are world-class top heavyweights. We've got Daniel coming up, of course. We've got the Furies, Hughie Fury, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Dillian White. And, of course, we also had George Fox, Don Charles' son, who made his debut the other night. He looks good.
Joe Joyce. You've got
Joe Joyce.
There's a lot of guys around here. You've got Tom Little, who's trying to upset the plans for Daniel Dubois. He's a good competitor. He's a fighting man. He's got a fighting heart. He fancies the job. He thinks he's got too much experience for Daniel. It's a big step up for Daniel at this stage of his career for a kid who only had 7 senior bouts as an amateur. And obviously had 7 fights now. This is a big step up for him. But you know what? He wants those type of fights. He needs those fights. He's not phased by it, and I think it's going to be a good test for him, and I think it's going to be quite entertaining.
Well, here's the thing, Frank. I mean, we've got a very overcrowded heavyweight division in this country now. How do you see Daniel's career? You say he's the best talent you've seen at his age. Hughie Fury's 23. Joe Joyce has only had 4 fights, but he's closer to 30. How do you see the near, the medium and long-term future for Daniel panning out?
I think Daniel just needs experience. He needs these type of fights and get him in a position where he can fight for a world title. And, you know, providing he handles his test on Saturday and he comes through, okay, it's just a question of stepping him up. And I think by sometime next year, maybe around September next year, I think I wouldn't have no problem putting him in for a world title.
Well, that's very interesting. And also I know that Don King was supposed to be arriving. I was very keen to meet him, as I'm sure he was me. And I wanted to question him about the water stain that Mike Tyson managed to incur upon him, but he hasn't turned up. What's going on with Don? Is he coming here today or not?
I don't know. He's supposed to be flying in, and we will find out later today, because obviously the time difference. I hope he can get here. As for Mike Tyson throwing water over an 87-year-old man, you know, what's all that about, you know?
Well, you've heard it from the man. Listen, I'm looking forward to Saturday night, as I'm sure all you guys are. This is Keith Fraser for Seconds Out, here with Frank Warren.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Frank.